Alright, welcome back everyone. So this game is going to be my top 16 match against Just Once. So going to this game, I was fairly convinced that he would bring the same box as he did in the previous 4 games during the groups, because he brought the exact box for all 4 games, like no changes at all. And you can see it's a 3 tanks with a Ledin and mostly single target assassin box with 4 healers. So because I was convinced that he was probably not going to do any major changes, if at all, so you can see that being reflected in my box. So I completely dropped Rosen. I only brought 1 healer, which is CC White. I brought a tank, and then the rest of my box is just aimed to trade. I have a bunch of assassins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 assassins with Wehttam, then some bunch of AoE disruptors like Himiko and Autocrato, which is pretty common. So yeah, let's hit right into the draft. So first ban is Lucretia, pretty standard one. He first bans my Pepsi because, well, it's a pretty good ban. So normally nowadays, if you go for a DPS on the first ban, I would say it's either Lucretia, Wehttam, or Epsilon, even though I rate Lucretia and what you call it, Wehttam a bit higher. Because even though Epsilon enables a lot of units, especially in the case of my box, he alone doesn't really offer that much of utility and threat. He's just a very strong unit that happens to buff a lot of other units. So in this case, if he's scared of Assassin, then it makes sense to first ban the Pepsi here. He opens with a Cherry. I'm like, okay, I just take out Elwin and Wehttam. So you can see here, Luxia and Wehttam already gone. And I first pick my Werner, which is, I would say, usually the best assassin to play against someone that you know is going to play tank push. He has the highest kill range, okay threat range. So yeah, like my plan B, if I don't get Pepsi, I'm just gonna first pick Werner. He goes into Epsilon here. Here, I take out Werner, so I don't want to deal with like a full Meteor mirror matchup. And then I start to poke him a little bit by banning his Hilda, because I'm quite confident that he's the type that has to play with a tank, so I just ban 1 to force him to pick a tank. And here, I lose my Hilda and Cherry, which is whatever, honestly. I pick my Uzumaki clan, the double red hair. So Lucretia Ares is gone here, and he does pick the Ledin. So based on his previous record, he relies quite heavily on the Ledin. It's like his comfort pick. Like he will pick Ledin ahead of his other 2 tanks, like if it comes down to it. So yeah, this is kind of good for me. I would much rather fight a Ledin than a Christian. And the teleport, then the Tiaris, and I pick Zerida just to buff, to round up the draft. The pick Zerida is okay. I think based on his remaining units, I think with just the Uzumaki boys, I can secure enough of my threat range that I'm not too worried about picking Zerida and having her be useless. So yeah, this pick pretty nice for me. Lose CC White and Autocrato. Those are my sub tanks. Goes Liana just to get an act again, I suppose. So normally when I play these kind of trade games, usually I'll just give the healers. But what's I gonna do? Actually, I'm not sure why I banned Rosen here. I guess I didn't want to get into a situation where I couldn't break his team, or like miracle fail kill, that sort of stuff. And CC White is another act again, and he can do Inspire to increase mobility, and she can also summon a secondary tank if the Ledin dies somewhere along the way. And I'm not worried about fighting a double tank, and I'm also not worried about fighting Kyra, because I think this matchup is pretty rough for Kyra. So I go ahead and pick Werner. I lose Elwin and Himiko. Goes ahead and finishes off Kyra. Doesn't want to double tank. And I get a 5th pick Wehttam somehow. Oh, I decided to pick Wehttam over the teleport here because I figured if I can start to trade first, I will eventually get into a position where Wehttam can go in and get a kill, even though he has Liana to dispel the despair debuff. So I rated Wehttam a bit higher here. So get this, he has a Phalanx let in, which is probably SSM based on the HP here, only 13,500. Kyra is standard, which is Twilight Star, because he has green attack here. This cherry is a Scepter cherry, because usually you can tell it's Scepter if it has around 1100 attack, because Ragnarok cherry will usually have around 1300 without Legion. Usually you can tell there's about a good 200 attack difference usually. But this Scepter cherry brought 2 melee skills, so I think that's a mistake. You should at least bring Shadow Raid, so that because 3 range Shadow Raid enables you to bounce into a backline, which is something I'll have to avoid. So it's a lot more threat range than bringing double melee. Once you bring double melee, I know this thing will have barely any range, so this thing is not even a threat anymore at this point. Epsilon standard, Liana is SSM, but he's not holy class Liana. My side is mostly standard. Single target Wehttam, normal Sigma, normal Warner, and normal Serida. So first turn we go in. First turn is just gonna be spent setting up. That's actually one of the biggest weakness of this kind of assassin draft. Because Warner needs 1 turn to set up, Sigma needs 1 turn to set up, my faction buffer needs 1 turn to set up. That is one of the biggest weakness of this kind of assassin draft. But there's nothing on my opponent's team that really offers a turn 1 threat. And I have a Wehttam to zone anyway, so I'm fine. Keep my Warner at the back. Warner dime. There's 2 Warners this game. Right, first he goes to my Sigma, and it's a double kill. Because it's not Mad Ring, like I know it's Twilight Star, so I tried to go onto the terrain to see if I could maybe survive it, but it is kind of hard without like a Landius Aura or something. Usually it will be a mutual kill. And here I make a pretty big mistake. So the interaction between Epsilon and Wehttam is a bit weird when like player 1 and player 2. So if the roles are reversed, the interaction is a bit different. And I'm actually planning to make a separate video on that entirely, because just based on my games, I can actually make a pretty good video out of it. But my mistake here is that I didn't really click on the Epsilon and check that he actually doesn't have the Despair debuff anymore. He actually got the Dispel through his exclusive. So I intended to kill Epsilon here, but he doesn't have the Despair debuff, so letting guards. So then it actually dies through the Phalanx, which is actually, I didn't expect that. I thought I lost the game on the spot when I saw the letting guard. But it's still pretty bad because I need this Wehttam to kill Epsilon. I can't, because you see, if Wehttam dies, Epsilon with his passive, he can just go into the middle and he can slowly pick apart my team. I don't really have a way to deal with him. Like, this Epsilon is going to solo my entire team. So that's pretty bad. Also, if we rewind a bit, I'll mention a bit about, because in a mutual kill, it's actually a little bit weird on Epsilon in the way that his exclusive procs. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. So the way that this combat resolved is, the Kyra dies first, the exclusive procs, then Wehttam's passive proc, then my Sigma dies, and then his exclusive procs again, which is why he doesn't have the Despair debuff, because it procced after my Wehttam's talent. So it's a bit of a funky coding thing going on here. Like, you never know how two things really interact together until you actually see it happening. Yeah, moving on. Don tries to kill my Wehttam, but I have 45% damage reduction now, so that's not enough. And Cherry has to finish the job now. He tries to go on my Warner, but my Warner is actually in defensive stance, so he just kind of explodes. But he's 1-up, so he doesn't die straight up. And he gets a stun off. Zerida finishes it, but I lose one turn where my Zerida was supposed to set up. So yeah, you can see this is kind of scary. Epsilon is about to solo my whole team. Don't really have a way around it. So yeah, he just goes inside the middle. I can't do anything. He only has one attack skill, which is 3C, and he failed the kill. So it's gonna be a while before his cooldown is up. But what this does is basically it prevents me from moving up to threaten him. Like the other thing I could do is everyone just moves up together. So I create a scenario where if you kill one guy, my other two guys are gonna kill you. So actually thinking back about it, maybe that was the better option. Like when he just moves the Epsilon here, I could just actually just push up Alhazard here, go into attack stance somewhere, and then go into speed stance somewhere. Basically try to force the issue before his 3C comes back up. That might have been the better way back into this game, now that I'm thinking back about it. But yeah, well, at the time I decided to just try and kite it up and trying to pray for a mistake on his part. Without his passive, he runs back. X again. Like, he's free to do that because I still have this fucking Alhazard board here. So it's griefing my turn priority. So even with that act again, when I have 3 units, he still has turn priority. Even after using that act again. This is pretty rough. Like here I'm in attack stance, like it's a bluff. I'm not in defensive stance, so he doesn't even break the shield here. And this is a hard turn because I didn't have hide and seek on that turn. Because there's nowhere to go. He breezed. So I can't even do anything on that turn after losing my Warner. So at this point, game's kind of rough. But not sure why he refused to click Q on his Liana. Because my Warner Dime is actually not Twilight Star, so if he actually just heals his Liana, I actually can't kill this. So I don't know. He took damage from my Wehttam's initiation and it's been like a good 3-4 turns since then. I don't know why he just didn't heal his own Liana. So yeah, I take that a little bit of a freebie. So now his Epsilon's 3C shield is down again. Yeah, I just go into defensive stance because I'm not gonna get 10 steps. The map is too small already. And more importantly, I needed to buff my Zerida so she could exit from Epsilon's melee range. So I'm barely able to get out. See this tower. Alhazard. So normally I would say at this point I should have lost. I'm just kind of praying for a mistake. So I have to break the shield at this point. I take a shit ton of damage doing that. So on this turn, I'm not sure if he just wasn't aware that zombies don't heal when you enter. You only heal when you enter battle. So I'm not sure, he's just unfamiliar. Maybe he thinks it's like werewolves and he thought he would heal up and enter his shield form. But he didn't. So actually here, if he just went into the center and used 3C on my Werner, he would have just won because he would have healed up to full. And my Zerida without 3C activated, there's no way my Zerida is going to kill a full health Epsilon even if he doesn't have faction buff. There's no way. But by using faction buff there, it allowed me to try for this, which is hit him and hope he dies. Hellfire, he heals 40% from the zombies. And oh, it was enough for Werner time to finish the job. So definitely got a bit lucky there, I think, in terms of place mid. I feel like I shouldn't have won that, especially with a mistake from my Wehttam. I really needed my Wehttam to kill the Epsilon. So, okay, moving on. It's game 2. I get Cape of Sorrow. This map loves me. I get this boat map all the fucking time in playoffs. So, I decided to switch it up a bit and go for an AoE box. So here you can see I swap out 3 of my assassins, swap out Elwin, my Hilda, and I just put all the AoE units in. Clotaire, Vincent, Elena Kruger, and this name again. I'm just gonna call it New Ares. Lovina. Lovina is like, I just want to play him for fun. Like, I don't think he's like good, like meta, but I think he can catch people off guard if they are not familiar with what he does. And I just want to have some fun with him. So yeah. So first box, first ban Rosen, natural AoE box. Bans Lucretia. Pretty standard. I only have DPS in this box. Goes back for his Cherry. Ban his next healer, ban the Wehttam. Don't want to get out traded. And first pick Vincent here. I think it's the single hardest counter to Cherry from an AoE unit. Cherry can't even go and kill the Ares. Usually Ares, but he can't kill the Vincent because if you attack into Vincent, usually you take damage from hitting Vincent and then Vincent explodes and then your Cherry just dies. I don't even know if 1-up works against that because you technically die to the AoE after battle from Vincent's death. So I don't think 1-up even saves you against that. But yeah, Judge Talisman AoE from Vincent. One of the strongest AoE picks against Cherry, my opinion. Bans Autocrato, Sub-Tank, Clotaire, one of the AoE units that has the most threat range. So okay, that makes sense. Tiaris here, so this is a pretty scary one because it's a Scepter Cherry, so he on top of a +1 and an attack blessing from Tiaris. I'll need to get the first jump before this Cherry just dismantles my team. Ban the Teleport, ban the Kyra because I'm playing AoE and he has a +1 Tiaris. Pick Wehttam, another anti-holy AoE. The Flyer, which is very nice to have on a board map. And because I banned these two, I end up leaking the Elwin, which is definitely not ideal. So, like these two self-sustained units are really good against AoE boxers. Pick Lovina here, a bit greedy. I think I should have gone for the 4th pick CC White. But I think in my head was like, yeah, if you ban my CC White, I'm just gonna pile on the AoEs. I'm just gonna have 4 AoEs and like a teleport or something like that. And I'll just try to jump you before you jump me. So, bit greedy. This is a bit of a mobility pick as well. Because, well, for those who are not familiar with what Lovina does, he does a mini teleport for two of your allied units for 2 blocks. So, yeah, I just want to play him. So, he does end up banning 2 more DPSs. He picks his Ladin after I poke his tag. And I managed to pick up CC White. So that kind of mitigates the Elwin problem a little bit. End up losing my teleport and Kruger. Takes Werner. Up. Full glory team. And I get Himiko. Just one more Judge Talisman. Why not? So take a look at the skills. I think everything's pretty standard. The Cherry does bring Shadow Raid this game. Oh, this is UC 1300 now because he has an attack buff. The thing that I said before, the 11,000, 1100 and 1300 is before attack buffs. So yeah, this time he does have Shadow Raid, and if you take into account that it's Scepter and he has 3 range, suddenly it becomes a whole lot scarier. +2 range. So on my side, everything's pretty standard. I brought Seal instead of Push, because I think I might need it for the end game. Wehttam brought AoE skills. I'm playing full AoE team here, Sword Dance, because I'm just gonna use Mass Attack from CCY. Yeah. So the Ladin takes a very defensive position, just guards in place. He doesn't want to get jumped first. In order to win, he has to jump me first. Mass attack, summon the tank. The early mass attack, because I'm planning to decide the game in one turn basically. So I won't need the second turn of mass attack. So here he makes a pretty good play. Yes. Because he's player 1, he has turn advantage, so he gets the first move next turn. And what this does is it actually blocks my Vincent. So when I made that teleport move, it actually puts my Vincent in range to initiate on his team. And well, you could say he's kind of forced to make, like, this was the only available move that he had, but he found it. And this blocks my Vincent from initiating. I can't reach his team. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna hit you, maybe lower my health enough that I can do a suicide move next turn. And with the defense down debuff from his passive, it actually was kind of close. A bit worried that I would self-explode here. But yeah, I'm just harassing the Elwyn. And his last move is Tiaris. So I didn't really have to worry about anything. And my Wehttam just initiates. Right. Because this is a water map, so planting the sword there is actually quite annoying for the Werner. I AoE and then I move back into the hole. So from this position, like, everything is in range of everything else. My Himiko is ready, Vincent's ready. Wehttam, well, he used his AoE, didn't clock, but he's still there. Lovina is ready. As on his team, Cherry is ready, Elwyn is ready. Well, ready, he's already in there. Werner can't really reach my back line, and he can't really do much anyway. Himiko technically has 2 lives against single target. Vincent has 2 lives, Lovina has 2 lives. Wehttam already kind of did his stuff, so it's a bad kill. So here I would say his best move was to just use Elwyn and kill my Lovina, because Elwyn's 3C has passive block, so it will just get rid of unflinching. I thought this was called Indomitable. I don't know when they renamed it, but yeah. So I think the most value he will get out of here is using Elwyn, kill my Lovina, and my Vincent will go and demolish his entire backline. And if they don't die from that, there's one more coming from Himiko. And I think after that, CC White with Phalanx and the Lancer summon later on will be enough to stall out the Elwyn, and I will still win the endgame. But here, his move is kind of weird. He uses Shadow Raid on my sword, and he tries to stun my Lovina. So yeah, he's worried about my follow-up AoEs, but the problem is he doesn't really deal with the Vincent. I guess he does in a way that his Cherry is now here, so I kind of need to pick a side. Like, do I want to AoE this group or do I want to AoE this group? But I think he didn't realize that by doing that, he grieves his Elwyn's revive, and I just normal attack. get rid of Elwin with Himiko. So double bladed strike still kills Wehttam even though he has passive block. And continue. Vincent just goes in. Remember that there are still heal blocked from Wehttam's previous AoE. Heal block, heal block, heal block. And sadly it wasn't enough for my Vincent to get a double AoE off. But there's nothing he can do. He can't kill my Vincent because his team's gonna die. He does that. And I have enough coins for an act again here. And I just get rid of the cherry. I think that's the single largest threat remaining here. He tries to heal his Warner, but you're playing next to a Vincent near a fog. Get one kill there. Get the secondary AoE. Die. And I get a third AoE here. And that's gonna be game. So yeah, the Aladdin left here. Game over. So well, this entire season I've been mostly playing single target ever since like Epsilon was ready to play. So I haven't really played this kind of Kruger style AoE rush. It's not even rush really, just a high tempo AoE. I haven't really played this for a full season, but it worked out against my opponent's box because he was relying quite heavily on the Cherry and Aladdin, which are both holy units. So yeah, that will be the end of this BO3. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next game.